What's up? What's up? What's up? Hello, everybody, and happy Sunday. Welcome to another edition of the weekly Astro Forecast. If you're new here, my name is Mel. I'm the owner of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. All right, so welcome. And if you are returning, as always, welcome back. All right, so today I'm just going to jump right in because it's just one of those days. It's one of those weeks. It's been one of those a couple of weeks, right? We are sort of still fresh off the heels of that full moon in Aquarius the other day. That was just how can I explain it? Intense, enlightening. It was a lot. And I know a lot of people were physically feeling the effects of that, but I will get into that in a second. Yeah, so again, it's going to be one of those weeks that may not feel the best, but I do believe that a lot can be accomplished this week because even though we still have some of this rocky energy going on, we do have this sort of pocket of nice energy. It's sort of this energy that sort of flows effortlessly because we've got quite a few trines this week. So we do have some good stuff to look forward to, but we still are sort of in the mud, trudging through the mud to sort of get ahead and work through some of that volatile and difficult energy that we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks. All right. So before I really get into it, of course, you know the deal. If you're new to astrology or if you've been studying astrology and feel like you need a refresher, I created this thing called the Astrology Basics Cheat Sheet that basically gives you the quick and dirty on everything you need to know to learn astrology or to start learning astrology. Because let me tell you, astrology is sort of a lifelong learning. There's so many different levels of abstraction that you can go into with astrology, right? So you never really stop learning, but there are certain things that you need to sort of get down and that you need to sort of remember and sort of understand in the beginning. And that's the planets, the houses, the signs, and the aspects. So what I did was I created this 11-page PDF document that gives you the quick and dirty on everything that you need to know, the basics, so that you can start learning astrology and so that you can start deciphering your natal chart, because that is like the blueprint to your life. It's sort of where everything begins and ends. Okay. And so once you're able to sort of master that, you can move on to more advanced things. So again, in order to help you guys out, I created this Astrology Basics cheat sheet. And if you are interested, that link is going to be in the description box below. All you have to do is provide your email address and you can get the free download and you're good to go. All right. So let's just jump right in. Let's get into the highlights for this week. So first off, we have what I like to call the master plan, and that's going to be Mercury trine the North Node. Again, we're starting off the week with a trine, which is what I like because those are sort of harmonious aspects. It's about things flowing effortlessly. And with Mercury trine the North Node, again, with the North Node being our destiny, our life purpose, where we're headed in this life, we're going to be able to sort of think about things, think about the future, and talk to certain people that are going to help us along our journey. So I feel like this first transit of the week, this Mercury trine North Node, is going to be extremely helpful. And of course, if we're talking about the North Node, we're talking about fated events, chance happenings, especially because the North Node is still conjunct Uranus. So I expect some really good things to come out of that particular transit. The next, we have love and money. We have one of the most positive transits this week, which I love. It's Venus trine Jupiter. This is all about love. This is all about money, wealth, abundance. Okay. And so it's going to be a day where, especially if you're looking to link up with different people and not just in a romantic sense, right? Maybe it's friends, maybe it's coworkers. It's this sort of transit that allows you to be social, that allows you to really connect with people on a good level. All right. What's up, Hollow? Thanks for tuning in today. Nice to see you. All right. So we have that to look forward to, and that's going down on Thursday. Okay. So that's something nice to look forward to. And then finally, we have the star transit of the week, which is Mars entering Gemini. And I call that scatterbrain because Mars in Gemini is going to put a battery in your back. You're going to be thinking a mile a minute. This is all about multitasking and sort of doing the most. But the thing I love the most about Mars and Gemini is that Mars is going to be moving away from that conjunction in Taurus. So a lot of that volatile energy we've been feeling over the last couple of weeks, come Saturday, we're going to see some of that start to lessen. All right. We're going to feel that it's going to be a lot less intense. Okay. So that's definitely something to look forward to. All right. So let's talk about the week and see what we have going on. So on Monday, like I mentioned before, we've got Mercury trine the North Node. Then on Tuesday, we have Mercury trine Uranus, and the moon is going to be moving into its sign of exaltation, which is Taurus. Then on Thursday, we have that beautiful energy of Venus and Jupiter, because Venus will be trining Jupiter on that day. Then on Friday, we have the moon moving into Gemini. This is going to be important because we have the moon and Mars in Gemini this weekend. So expect the weekend to be full of activity, but I'll get more into that when I break each day down. And then on Saturday, we have Mars moving into Gemini. And then we close out the week on Sunday with Mercury opposite Neptune and the moon moving into its home sign of Cancer. All right. So let's take it day by day and see exactly what's on the menu. All right. So Monday, we've got Mercury trine the North Node. Okay. And you'll see with the North Node, we still have Uranus conjunct. Now, technically, Mars is not conjunct Uranus and the North Node, because if you see it at the bottom left-hand side of your screen, that little red Mars symbol that symbolizes Mars, it's not in conjunction territory anymore. So it's moving away, but that energy still pretty close. So we're still feeling sort of that last bit of Martian energy with that conjunction. But thankfully, like I said, Mars is going to be moving into Gemini on Saturday. And then, we're not going to feel things as intently. Okay. So what I love about Mercury trine the North Node is that it allows us to think of the future, right? Because the North Node is all about where we want to be, where we're headed, our destiny, our fate, all of that good stuff. And so with Mercury concerning our thoughts, our ideas, and our communication, this is about thinking about things, communicating things, and fated encounters, right? Because Mars is, I don't know why I keep saying Mars. Mercury is also a sign of relationships, right? I know that when we hear relationships, we automatically think Venus, right? Which is true. But because Mercury rules communication, obviously we're not talking about communicating with ourselves. We're talking about communicating with others. So how we interact with others is governed by Mercury. And so with Mercury trine the North Node, this may be people coming in effortlessly, right? With trines, there's nothing you have to do. Trines just sort of happen. So this could be people coming in, giving you advice, having conversations, giving you some specific knowledge on something that's really going to help you move forward and move towards your destiny or your life purpose. And again, because we're talking about the North Node and Mercury, it's all about our thinking about the future. This is, a strong emphasis on our intellect, on our intelligence, and also rational thinking. And because the North Node is in such a practical and grounded earth sign like Taurus, a lot of us are going to be able to look at the future through a very practical lens, right? This isn't going to be extremely idealistic or sort of pie in the sky. Mercury trine the North Node allows you to be practical, realistic, and logical when it comes to your desires, when it comes to your fate, when it comes to your life purpose. So one of the things that I said this week in one of my posts on Instagram was that one of the things and one of the gifts that this full moon in Aquarius that we had on Thursday sort of gave to us is letting us know what we're supposed to be doing right now. I don't know how many people I've talked to over the last couple of weeks and even over the last couple of months who've become a lot more clearer on what they feel like they need to do, right? Whether it's starting something new, whether it's changing where you live, what you do for work, your career, even your group of friends. I feel like the full moon in Aquarius sort of illuminated that for many of us, right? And so we're getting a lot clearer on what we're supposed to do, what we want to do. And what I love about Mercury trine the North Node is that we build on that energy by figuring out sort of the how. How are we going to do this? What practical steps, what plans do we have to put in place in order to make these things happen? So it allows us to have a solid and practical approach to what we want to do in the future. So you're also going to want to pay attention to who comes into your life, to who sort of just pops up, right? Because since Mercury is all about communication, this could be like a random conversation with someone that gives you a piece of advice, that gives you specific skills, that gives you an idea, that kind of thing. So I feel like we start the week out on a very sort of practical note, on sort of a future-oriented note. So I'll definitely say that on Monday, if you have the time, you're definitely going to want to at least sit, even if it's just for 5 minutes, and jot down some of the things that you want to do. What are some of your goals? What are some of the things that you want to achieve in the short term and in the long term? Because I feel like the way that the astrology is set up, like we're going to be wired to think about the future and wired to think about not only just what we're doing and what we want to do, but why we're doing it. Okay. So I really like that. I like that for us. I like this energy, and I like this transit to start out the week. All right. So that is Monday. So now we're up to Tuesday. So on Tuesday, we have Mercury trine Uranus, and this makes sense because the North Node and Uranus are conjunct. They're occupying the same space. And so Mercury is going to trine Uranus the very next day. And then we also have the moon moving into Taurus. All right. So Mercury trine Uranus is feeling anticipation. It's feeling a little anxious, right? But more so excited about things that are happening. Uranus is all about surprises. It's all about sort of that electric current that runs through everything. And it allows us to be a little open-minded, a little flexible, open to new possibilities. But one of my favorite aspects of this particular transit is that it lends itself to inventions. It lends itself to innovation. It lends itself to flashes of insight and sort of those aha moments that allow you to think outside the box and see things from a much different perspective. Okay. This could also be, on a sort of more mundane level, this could also be just like a chance encounter, hearing good news, a small surprise, but a surprise that's pleasant. Okay. It also stimulates your senses. It increases psychic abilities. It just takes communication and thinking to like the next level. And that's why I love it, because it allows you to see things differently. It allows you to tap into sort of that cosmic energy that can allow you to see the bigger picture, because Mercury is one of the ruling planets of Virgo. And we all know that Virgo is all about details. So a lot of times mercurial energy can be very detail oriented, very analytical, and also very logical. And when you think about it in those terms, you're sort of putting yourself in a box, right? Anything that seems illogical or doesn't make rational sense, you're prone to sort of not believe it or not engage with it, right? But Uranus is sort of the opposite. Uranus is about cosmic energy. It's about this undercurrent of energy that you can't see, but that you can feel in your spirit, right? So when you put those two together, you're able to sort of analyze things and then receive information from different sources and in different modalities. So it's a very great time, again, to be innovative, think outside the box, talk to new and interesting people that have different perspective than you on different things, and just experience a little bit of excitement. Like, sometimes the way that these transits play out can be sort of dramatic for some, and for others, it can just be very subtle, right? Like, it's not the case that on Tuesday, everyone is going to have a flash of insight and invent a new sort of car or a new sort of smartphone, right? For some, this just may be a day where you feel good and you feel excited about the future, right? It all depends on where this is going down in your chart, which brings me to a point that I should have mentioned earlier. But all of these forecasts, whether you read horoscopes, whether you talk to people who analyze your chart, even if someone does a personal horoscope for you, it's all about a general sense of the cosmic energy. Okay. The way that this may play out for you may be radically different than someone else. And the determining factor in that all boils down to your natal chart, because these transits are happening in different places for different people. So where one person might experience Venus trine Jupiter as meeting the love of their life, their Prince Charming or their queen, someone else just may find like $5 on the floor in an unexpected sort of way, right? So it plays out differently for everyone. And that's why it's so important to know and understand your natal chart, because all of this will make more sense and you'll be able to understand how this plays out for you as opposed to just the general energy. So I implore you to explore your natal chart, start to understand it. You can start with the Astrology Basics cheat sheet if you don't know what all the symbols mean. I do natal chart reports where I read your natal chart to filth. I break it down in a way that you can understand, and that really sort of goes in depth into what everything means. And if you're interested in that, the link will be in the description box below. But regardless, whether you work with me on your own or with someone else, knowing your natal chart is of vital importance. Okay, so you're definitely going to want to get into that. So now that I'm off my soapbox, let's move on. And again, on Tuesday, we're also going to have the moon moving into Taurus. Now, this is going to have us feeling away. Okay. And I mean to say that I just finished talking about Mercury trine Uranus, right? And it opens your mind to new possibilities, and it allows you to see things from a different perspective, right? I feel like that's how we're going to be feeling on a mental level. But with the moon in Taurus, our emotions are just going to want to be comfortable. So the moon is exalted in Taurus, meaning that it is treated like a queen, right? Our emotions are comfortable. We are comfortable, and we don't like venturing out of our comfort zone. Moon in Taurus is classic for being lazy, Netflix and chill, comfort food, not doing anything that requires too much effort, too much thinking, or too much action. So our emotions are going to feel like they don't want to step outside the box, but our mental capacity is going to want to experience new and exciting things. So if you feel like this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde energy on Tuesday, trust and believe it's not just you. We're probably all going to be feeling this on some extent, because on the one hand, we're going to want to forge a new path and do new and exciting things, talk to different people, step outside our comfort zone. And our emotions are going to be like, nah, I just want to put on my sweats, watch TV, and sleep. Okay. So again, it's sort of that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde energy that we'll all be feeling with Mercury trine Uranus and the moon in Taurus. All right. So that's what's going down on Tuesday. So now let's move on to Thursday. So on Thursday, we have that glorious trine between Venus and Jupiter. And you'll see that on the chart right there. Venus is in Leo and Jupiter is in Aries. All right. So both of these planets are in air signs, right? And air signs are notorious for that fire signs. They're both in fire signs. Venus is in Leo and Jupiter is in Aries. So fire signs are notorious for that fiery energy, for this dynamic, bold, and blunt energy. Leo is all about our hearts, right? And Aries is all about our heads. The ones on the top of our head. Get your mind out of the gutter. But yeah, it's this energy of wanting to do things, wanting to start things, wanting to have some excitement, broadening our minds, right? And so Venus in Leo is all about doing what feels good in our hearts. Okay. And so with this trine, I think that many of us are going to be feeling an urge to be optimistic, an urge for romance, an urge for love of some kind. Now, depending on where this is going down in your chart, this may not have to do with romantic love. Love obviously comes in all different shapes, colors, sizes, and feelings, right? You don't necessarily feel the same way for your mother as you may feel for your friend, okay? So many of us just may feel this need for love, and because it's a trine and trines are effortless energy, some of us may be experiencing just effortless love, effortless comfort, effortless warmth. With Jupiter in the mix, Jupiter is known as the greater benefic, meaning that it's pretty much apart from the sun, it's the most positive planet in our solar system. So Jupiter is going to be feeling generous. Jupiter is going to be making people feel generous, reaching out and touching someone, being warm and generous with people. So I feel like Thursday is going to be like a warm and fuzzy feel good kind of day on many different levels. Okay. If you are, if this happens to be going down in your sector of romance or of relationships, this is going to be a great day for you to get out there. If you're single, if you are partnered up, this is going to be a great day to sort of show your partner your love, be generous with your love, be warm and loving. Okay. This is also may give you a certain sense of magnetism, right? And attractiveness, particularly if you have Venus or Jupiter in your first house, right? If transiting Venus or transiting Jupiter is in your first house, you are going to be feeling very good about yourself, very sexy, very magnetic, very alluring. So that energy definitely brings all the boys and girls to the yard. So if that's the case for you, then you're definitely going to want to take advantage of that. Put yourself out there because you never know who you can meet and who you can connect with. This is also a great time to go on a trip. Okay, because Jupiter is all about travel, sort of expanding your mind, broadening your horizon. So this is a good time to either take a trip, plan a trip, or book a trip. Venus is all about money, right? So this is also a great transit for shopping, particularly on things that are like luxury goods, comfort goods, cosmetics, jewelry, art. All of those things sort of fall under the umbrella of Venus energy, right? But one thing to be mindful of is that Jupiter exacerbates things, it expands things. And so there is a tendency under this transit to do the most, right? Whether it comes to love, this could like literally be love bombing someone, smothering someone. When it comes to money, it's overspending. When it comes to food, even, right? Because depending on where Venus is in your chart, this could be like food related, like having good food, going to a good restaurant. But like gluttony is one of the words that comes to mind on this transit as well. So you're going to want to practice some moderation because things are going to feel really good. You're going to feel really good. You're going to feel like really spending a lot of money, really loving on somebody. So just be mindful and be just a little moderate, okay? It's also gifts, right? Especially because this is a trine and trines are all about effortless energy. Many of you may find that you just get gifts, compliments, good fortune, good offers, good advice. So let's say you're out shopping and let's say you're looking for home decor. Maybe you're looking for a new bed or a new sofa. You may get an extra special bargain or extra special discount at the furniture store under this transit, right? Those are the type of things that happen with this transit. So it's definitely something nice to look forward to, some nice energy to look forward to. One of the other important factors or facets, I should say, of this transit is that any investments that are made while this transit is active will likely result in wealth. Now, I am not one to give financial advice. Please take this with a grain of salt. This is just the general cosmic energy, but any investment started while this transit is active will definitely yield some positive results in the future. And because both of these signs are in fire signs, I feel like any of this wealth may happen sooner rather than later, okay? Now, it's not the case where you should just risk it all, right? Because Venus is in Leo, and Leo is about taking some risk, right? And so is Aries. With Jupiter being in Aries. So you may feel risky. You may feel like Lady Luck is with you and you just want to bet it all on one horse or, you're all in with everything. You may not want to do that, right? Because again, we want to practice moderation. But again, any investments made right now should yield some pretty good results. All right. That's what we have going on Thursday. So now we get to Friday. And on Friday, we have the moon moving into Gemini, okay? And this is I have to say, when the moon moves into Gemini, it's one of those placements that can be really interesting. So Gemini is very busy body energy. Like Gemini loves multitasking. Gemini is like the social butterfly of the zodiac. So when the moon is in Gemini, our emotions tend to be all over the place. Our emotions can be very scattered. We don't necessarily feel things deeply. We feel things sort of superficially and move on very quickly. So Moon in Gemini is not one of those transits where you're going to be feeling very emotional or you're going to feel like, repressed emotions are coming up. Like Moon in Gemini compared to Moon in let's say Scorpio are like night and day. Scorpio is all about depth and repressed emotions and going into the depths of your psyche. Whereas Gemini is like, I feel this, I'm over it. You move on so quickly from your emotions, but many of us are going to be feeling the urge to multitask, to do many things, to socialize, to reach out to people. And typically, anytime a planet is transiting Gemini, it tends to be just a busy time generally, whether it's lots of phone calls, lots of emails, lots of conversations, lots of paperwork even. That's the kind of energy that Gemini gives generally. And so when the moon is in Gemini, our emotions are all over the place. We may be feeling a lot of different things, but again, not deeply. We may feel like we want to do a lot of things. We may want to talk to a lot of people, be social, right? And the lack of sort of social activity may have you in your feelings when the moon is in Gemini. So you may have this urge to want to go out, talk to people on the phone. And let's say nobody wants to go out with you. Let's say you call your friends and everyone's busy. They don't have time to talk. This may get you in your feelings, right? Because that desire to interact and be communicative with people is not being fulfilled. All right. So This sort of moon transit can also lend itself to a little bit of loneliness if we don't have that social interaction with people. Okay. And so the moon is going to be in the last quarter phase in Gemini. And basically this is about reevaluating some of the intentions we've set earlier. Okay. So, which is great because Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is mercurial, very logical, intellectual, concerned with logic and the intellect. So I feel like even if you find yourself lonely, it's always a great time to sort of reassess and reevaluate the things that you want, the things that you've been working toward, and take a logical look at them and see if what you've been working toward is still something that you want. You can think of different ways that you can tweak what you're doing. It's a good day to sort of reassess and reevaluate our goals. Okay. It's also about taking responsibility for our mistakes and our accomplishments. So with respect to the same, right? With respect to the intentions that we've previously set, Moon in Gemini in the last quarter is really about acknowledging where we could have done better, but also congratulating ourselves for the things that we got right. Okay. A lot of times, especially because Mercury is very detail oriented, we can sort of nitpick at ourselves and be very self-critical on mistakes we've made, slip ups we've had, things that we should have done, regrets that we may have. But the good thing is that the flip side of that is congratulating yourself for the things that you did right, congratulating yourself and giving yourself a pat on the back for what you have done that has worked, right? And when you figure out what has worked, you sort of double down on that and just do that going forward. So again, I feel like Friday is going to be a day where you sort of want to reassess, even if you take 5 minutes to journal, 5 minutes to just jot a quick note down about your progress and where you want to go. That'll be sufficient because I feel like you'll be in the right frame of mind to sort of reevaluate things and figure out where you stand with respect to what it is that you're working toward. All right. So that is Friday. Then Saturday, we have the star transit of the week, which is Mercury moving into the sign of Gemini. And again, I like this for us because Mercury is separating itself from that horrific conjunction and it's moving into Gemini. Now, it's interesting because the moon and Mars, I keep getting Mercury and Mars confused, so forgive me. Mars is moving into Gemini on Saturday, but the moon and Mars will be in the sign of Gemini on Saturday. So Mars in Gemini puts a battery in your back, like a serious battery in your back, especially when it comes to communication, when it comes to paperwork, when it comes to talking to people, thinking about things. Your mind is literally going to be on fire. You may have 80 million different ideas. And with Mars gives you the energy to do things, the energy to initiate things. So with Mars in Gemini, you will literally have like a million ideas and you will like scatter your energy to act on those million ideas. Okay. So that's why I call it scatterbrain, because I feel like your mind is going to be firing at a mile a minute, mind racing, lots of thoughts, lots of communication. Like let's say you are looking to start a business, okay? And let's say that Gemini is your 10th house. So your 10th house is all about career and public life, right? And with Mars moving in your 10th house, you decide that now is the time to take action steps to start your business. Like with this sort of energy, I feel like you're going to want to talk to everyone and tell them about it. You're going to want to do the most. Like you're going to try to incorporate and do marketing and branding and all of this stuff all at once, right? And which is not bad because I feel like Mars in Gemini is going to light a fire under your ass wherever it falls in your natal chart. The only problem is that this sort of transit lends itself to starting but not finishing. So by the time Mars leaves Gemini, and I must say Mars is going to be in Gemini for a long time, okay? Mars is going to be in Gemini until March. So it's going to be very important for you to pace yourself. If you get nothing else from this video, I want you to understand that Mars in Gemini is all about pacing yourself. Mars in Gemini is going to feel like a sprint and you're going to want to do everything rapid fire. But because it's going to be in whatever house it's going to be in your chart, it's going to be there until March. It's so important to pace yourself. It's so important to remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint. It's great to have a lot of ideas. It's great to be enterprising and initiating when it comes to things that you want to accomplish. Like this is great. Okay. But if you're flooring the gas, You're going to conk out at some point. And many people check back in December. This is okay. Perfect. This is what I want you to do. If you have, I'm not going to say the energy, but if you have the will to do this, right? I want you to start journaling. Okay. And this is not about journaling some elaborate thing, but anytime you get an idea, I want you to jot it down. Matter of fact, get like a notebook just for this. While Mars is in Gemini, I want you to write down all your ideas, all of your brainstorming, everything that you want to do, right? And I want you to check back in like January and see how far you've gotten on those goals and how you feel. Because I feel like come Saturday, a lot of us are going to be revved up, right? Come the next couple of months, I feel like people are going to get burnt out. People are going to get discouraged because they may not be seeing the results of whatever they're doing immediately, right? Because one thing about Mars is all about instant gratification. That's why Mars feels like it's a sprint. You want to do the most upfront and get an immediate return. And that's not necessarily how it's going to be, especially because the reason why Mars is going to be in Gemini for so long is that it's going to go retrograde later this year. So at some point, you're going to run out of gas. You're going to run out of fuel. Okay. And retrograde season is when you're going to redirect all that energy inward. Okay. But I'm going to get more into that in a different video. But keep in mind, Mars and Gemini, you're going to want to do the most. You're going to have energy scattered all over the place. Your mind is going to be firing a mile a minute. Like you're really going to want to do the most. And like I said, it's all about pacing yourself. So you're going to want to do that over the next couple of months. All right. So let's move on. So finally, we get to Sunday. So on Sunday, we have Mercury opposite Neptune. We also have the moon moving into Cancer, its home sign. All right. So Mercury opposite Neptune is one of those transits that leaves you confused. And that's sort of by design. So it brings mental confusion and miscommunication. So it's almost like one of those situations where you saw something, but what you saw or what you read isn't exactly what it really is. You misread something, you misread someone, you can't articulate yourself in the best way, which is why it brings confusion. It also makes your perception of reality a little clouded, okay? The good thing is that Neptune is currently retrograde, so we're not completely in a fog or a foggy kind of state, right? Because if Neptune was direct, Mercury opposite Neptune would have you hallucinating. It would have you clearly seeing things that aren't there, completely misreading things. I feel like the fact that Neptune is retrograde is helpful, but it still doesn't completely dismiss this sort of energy, okay? It's going to be a little difficult to tell the difference between like the truth and garbage, okay? So this sort of transit lends itself to things like scams, to things like being taken advantage of. So it's a little volatile in that sense, okay? So you're going to want to hold off on making any important decisions, okay? This transit isn't going to last too long. It's going to be exact on Sunday, but you're going to want to hold off on making any important decisions probably from, let's say, like Thursday or Friday. For like the next week, let's say from Wednesday of this week to Wednesday of next week. If you can sort of push things back, postpone things when it comes to making important decisions, you're going to want to do that because under this transit, you're not going to be able to see things that clearly. This is one of those transits where you don't want to sign any contracts. You don't want to commit yourself, especially to something that's long term, because you might not have read the fine print. Okay. This is also like if you're trying to have a meaningful conversation with someone, if you're trying to have a very serious conversation, you might not be able to express yourself in the best way. And even still, whatever you're saying, the person might not be able to receive in the best way. So avoid important decisions, contracts, serious conversations. Like You want to avoid those under this transit. But on the flip side, on the positive side, this transit is great for things that don't require attention to detail. So things that are creative, things that are ethereal, things having to do with the imagination are going to thrive. And as always, whenever we talk about Neptune, I always feel like we can always talk about sleep, right? Because Neptune is all about our dreams, okay? So if you're trying to figure something out, if you're trying to understand something, you're not going to understand it in a very logical sort of way. Like if you're researching something, if you're trying to study something, just reading a book is not necessarily going to get it to stick, right? Because again, you may misread or just completely misunderstand what you are reading. But I feel like your dream state may be active. What you're seeking is not going to be in a book. It's going to be in your subconscious, in your spirit. And some people are going to hate that. Okay. But regardless, you're going to want to pay attention to your dreams because I feel like those may be telling at this point. Okay. And this is also a good time to take a break. Okay. Especially if you find that you have like a brain fog, if you find that things are confusing or you're not expressing yourself, just take a little break. Step back. Don't have that conversation. Maybe don't take what this person says too seriously. Hold off on doing anything serious. So this could be just a time where you take a break. And it being on a Sunday is the perfect day for that. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a lazy Sunday, but I would say it's one of those days where you don't want to do too much. Okay. All right. And then finally, we have the moon moving into its home sign of Cancer. Okay. So it's interesting that we have Mercury opposite Neptune, and then we have the moon in Cancer on the same day. So the moon in Cancer, it's very intuitive. Okay. This is where your intuition comes alive. This is where you sort of listen more to your emotions and you move from a place, from an emotional place rather than a logical place. And I think this works well with Mercury opposite Neptune because it's going to get you to look to your intuition more. It's going to get you to lead with your intuition as opposed to trying to be logical and rational and detail oriented. Okay. Our feelings run deep. We tend to be sensitive. We tend to be moody when the moon is in Cancer. Okay. Doing things around the house is always a great thing to do during Cancer. And I think instinctively, many of us feel that. So this could be rearranging. This could be cleaning, anything involving the home, anything involving family. So like family get-togethers, maybe having a barbecue or Sunday dinner. It's going to be great. You're going to feel good, right? We're going to derive our emotional fulfillment from spending time with family or spending time at home. And being that it's a Sunday, I think it's a perfect day for that. The moon is going to be in the waxing crescent phase. Okay. The waning crescent phase, my bad. So this is all about surrender and reflection. Now, when it comes to our intuition, there is a certain energy of surrender, right? Because rather than trying to make logical sense of things, we sort of have to suspend our logic, suspend our rationality, and go within and rely on our intuition. And with the moon in Cancer in the waning crescent phase, I think that this is going to come naturally to us. So this may be a day where you want to reflect, particularly emotionally, with respect to what you don't need, right? Because in the waning crescent phase, in the waning phase of the moon, that's when we let go of things that we don't need, things that no longer serve us. And so I feel like Sunday is going to be a great day to just, reflect on that. Again, it's not a day where it's not the case where you have to do this all day. I feel like this is just going to be where, you just sit and reflect a little bit, maybe for 5-10 minutes, even a half hour, and think about what you don't need. Think about what doesn't serve you. Think about what doesn't make you feel good. Moon in Cancer is also about our basic emotional needs, things like love, safety, protection. And so if you're encountering things in your life or when you're reflecting, if you're thinking about things, you are, I lost my train of thought because one of the comments came in. If you're encountering things or if you're reflecting on things in your life that don't feel good, that don't make you feel safe, that don't make you feel secure, that maybe deplete you, this is the time when you're going to want to think about eradicating those things, getting rid of those things and making changes so that those things don't affect you in the way that they've been affecting you. So I feel like Sunday is going to be one of those days where you take it easy. Don't do, just do light work. Don't do anything that's too strenuous, too, detail oriented or anything like that, and really just reflect and hang out with people that you love, right? Because Cancer loves to hang out with family, loves to do things like that. So it's really important to do that. All right. So my loves, that is the weekly astro forecast for the week of, what week is this anyway? This is August 15th to August 21st. All right. So hopefully you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you can use in the week moving forward. All right. So thank you so much for joining, and I wish you nothing but the best for this upcoming week. All right. So tune in. I'll be back next week, same time, same place, for another weekly astro forecast. All right, y'all. Take care. See you next week.